back to City and State TV. I'm Morgan Pehme here with my colleague and friend Gerson Borrero at the City and State Hub at 2014 SOMOS in beautiful San Juan. We're joined now by Assemblyman Keith Wright. Assemblyman, thank you so much for joining us.
Morgan, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, go ahead, because
No, you jump in, Gerson.
First of all, there was an election that we just went through. You've seen many elections in this city and this state. From your perspective, I know there's a tidal wave and the Republicans that took over in the federal level in terms of the Senate. Here in New York, we have a strong governor right now, did his first 4 years with a record of accomplishment. And yet, I tell you, I'm surprised at the fact that the other guy, unknown, from a county that's relatively small in relationship to the rest of the state, with hardly any money, got 41% of the vote. Is that Rob Astorino that was a good campaigner, or is it that Cuomo, Andrew, is falling short on a lot of things with the state itself, with the people that go out and vote?
No, I don't think so. Listen, Andrew Cuomo, there's no doubt, he's been a wonderful governor. I've worked with at least 5 governors during my time in the legislature. And I can tell you honestly, Andrew Cuomo has been the most productive of those governors. I came in on the tail end of Mario Cuomo, 12 dreaded long years of George Pataki.
Right.
Then we went to Eliot Spitzer, then David Patterson, now Andrew Cuomo. And Andrew Cuomo in his first 4 years has a marvelous, marvelous record of accomplishment.
No doubt.
It's a great record of accomplishment. And I think to a certain extent, people expected him to do that each and every day. He hit some home runs out of the park. Now, that being said, let me finish. Now, to a certain extent, I think people have Herculean sort of expectations of Andrew Cuomo. And one of the things, now on the other side, they had no expectations of George Pataki. And one of the things that Andrew Cuomo has not done, which is I find, is that he doesn't do the retail aspect very well in terms of some of the people. Because people in New York want to touch, they want to feel, they want to really think that their governor really remembers all of their names. And I don't think he does that particularly well, but I think he's been a fabulous, fabulous governor. He can do it when he wants to. No one can be more charismatic. No one can be more seductive.
On a personal level,
on a personal level. And he's been a fabulous, fabulous governor. Now, in terms of not getting what you say, that Astorino got maybe 41% or what have you. I mean, listen. There are a lot of reactionary sort of forces here in New York, whether we know it or not, because that's what gave us the 12 years of George Pataki.
Right.
That's what gave us 12 years of George Pataki. Now, due to the fact that Andrew Cuomo spearheaded the Gun Safety Act.
Right. For all the things that he did.
This gun safety, which played well here with folks from New York City.
Right.
But it was way, way, way to his detriment in upstate New York. You know, you gotta remember, we're upstate New York. These folks, they carry their guns. They consider their guns, that Second Amendment, sacrosanct in so many ways.
Before Morgan goes up, but look, you've seen campaigns and you've seen campaigners. There wasn't I didn't perceive with this record of achievement. I'm not denying how much he did for the state, the whole state. But there isn't like a love for the governor. I didn't feel it. There isn't an enthusiasm. You can't say there was a black community or a Latino community, Puerto Ricans otherwise, that were like, oh my God, it's Andrew. It was like he's such a stiff. He's so detached.
He actually is not a stiff, and he's not detached. But I will tell you this: his best poll numbers are among blacks and Latinos.
Sure, I understand.
And his worst poll numbers are among Italian Catholics.
Well, we know the reason for that, but
well, because of some of the policies that he has pursued, whether it's the SAFE Act, whether some other things down the line. So, you know, was there the kind of enthusiasm that they had, that folks had for Mario Cuomo? I don't know. It was a campaign. I can tell you this: Rob Astorino, there's no real love for him. But Rob Astorino, you have to ask the people in Westchester why they continue voting for him to be the county executive.
Assemblyman, you were recently the state chair of the Democratic Party. In light of the Republican success in the state Senate election, of course, you expanded your majority in the Assembly, but do you think that the Democrats have to reflect upon the way that they've approached politics, the way that they've approached policy in light of the outcome of the election?
Listen, it depends on what, are you talking statewide, are you talking nationally? I don't know.
I'm talking about statewide.
No, after each and every election, I don't care who you are, you always have to ponder and reflect. I can tell you there are folks, including me, that can't wait for the certified numbers coming from the Board of Elections, analyzing each and every electoral district. Because, I mean, it just comes down to simple mathematics. Those communities that vote get more attention paid to them. I mean, it's just pure and simple. We all do it. We all look at it. Now, do we have to ponder and deliberate and to try and figure out what went wrong or what went right? Absolutely. Everybody does. In the Assembly, I think we have a supermajority, but with the state Senate, certainly I was not involved with any of their campaigns, but I think that they will be going back to the drawing board, because you have to remember, although they may be down this time, you got to remember 2016 is right around the corner, and usually Democrats in the state Senate do incredibly well during presidential years.
How do you explain the drop-off from the last midterm elections of 1 million voters in New York State?
I can, and I think that's somewhat akin to what the question what Brother Borrero was asking me, is that I really cannot explain it.
And I think, isn't that a failure of the Democratic Party or politics to some degree?
What I think, I just think that most candidates rely too much on television. That's what I think. Listen, if you get anytime, and we had the governor a few times in Harlem, and every time he walked in there, he was a rock star. He was an absolute rock star, because as I told Brother Borrero, people want to see, they want to feel, they want to touch their candidate. I can tell you, if I relied solely on TV in the New York State Assembly, I wouldn't be elected. Because people want to see me going to the store, they want to see me going to the bank, they want to see me going to the dry cleaner. It's retail. And I think to a certain extent in this day and age, a lot of our statewide and a lot of our, I guess, municipal candidates have kind of, either they don't practice the art of retail politics or they just rely on television. Now, of course, I never run a television campaign, and but I just think people want to see those candidates at the train stations. They want to see those candidates in front of schools on opening day. So those kinds of things. But that's the only way I can explain it.
But the electorate is one thing. Now you get into Albany, the next session, what's happened in the Assembly, what's happened in the Senate. Is there a reset in mind? Has there been discussion? With all due respect to Shelley Silver, who's here at SOMOS, who came. The governor's not here, by the way. He didn't come. He sent Kathy Hochul.
She's on her way.
She's on her way. She's going to speak at 7. She's not talking to the press. She's a drive-by kind of appearance. Does something need to happen with Mr. Silver, Shelley Silver? Is it time for him to know that there's a new wave of leadership? And is it time for a Latino or a African American, a black, if you want to, whatever you want to call it, a woman to lead?
Well, I'll tell you this. I've served with Speaker Sheldon Silver for a number of years. No one is more astute, and no one ponders more and deliberates more. I mean, he's a real student of the game. Now, if and when the time comes for the next speaker comes. I'm sure, I would hope, that communities of color will be able to come together and be able to and make a historic change. Let me put it that way.
I'm sorry, but at the Senate level, you have Andrea Stewart-Cousins.
Yes.
Duly representing in a proper way the Democratic Party.
No question.
And you have Jeff Klein allowed to disrespect the process for the Democratic Party, which you defend, and you're a great Democrat. How do you stand for this? What is it that we don't get?
There's no way in the world that I could be a Republican.
Well, does Jeff Klein belong in the Democratic Party?
Well, that's actually his decision and his constituency, and decision of his constituency to make. Jeff Klein has played his politics a little differently than I would have been playing my politics. Andrea Stewart-Cousins is a fantastic, a tremendously intelligent individual who.
Why does the governor allow for the disrespect to go on?
Well, I mean, I think clearly now we have the Republicans winning a majority of the seats. Yes?
Right.
We have a majority of the seats. So that question right now is somewhat moot right now at the moment, in terms of leadership of the New York State Senate, which is a majority Republican. Now, the question is, Dean Skelos, does he cut a deal with Jeff Klein, even though he doesn't need him right now?
I'm gonna say one more thing before Morgan. It's still white males controlling both chambers, and I don't know how we stand for it. We're at SOMOS, we're in Puerto Rico, you're here, the governor's not here, and he sends a white person that he picked from an area of New York State that he thought he was gonna win. It didn't help him win Buffalo, it didn't help him win upstate. So it's like it's a dissing, as we say in the hood.
Yeah,
and you guys are comfortable with that. Not you personally, but it's like you wait for these insults to continue to occur.
Well, I cannot speak for the state senator, son, but certainly we in the assembly we have some folks in some great positions of power in the assembly. Myself, I'm chair of the housing committee. When the hottest issue, the sexiest issue, the biggest issue that's going to hit us this legislative year is going to be that of affordable housing, rent control, and rent stabilization. Okay. So I'm the chair of housing committee. It's a real issue, and that's why I chose to become chair of the housing committee, because that issue affects everybody. I actually live in the very, very same rent-stabilized unit that I grew up in, on 135th
Don't say
Street.
that. Don't say that.
I pay exactly $1,000 a month rent anyway for my 3-bedroom apartment. So I'm chair of the housing committee. You have a guy by the name of Jeff Aubrey, who is chair of the who's the Assembly Speaker Pro Tem. You have a guy by the name of Gary Pretlow, who's from Westchester County, who is the chair. Again, one of the biggest issues facing us all right now in the state of New York is that of casino gambling, racing, and wagering. He's chair of the Racing and Wagering Committee in the New York State Assembly. So we have some folks that are in place. We have some folks that are in place right now. And who the next speaker will be will take its natural course.
Yeah, the cover story on the next issue of City and State is exactly about that showdown over the housing laws that is going to go down in this next session.
Morgan. Let's go.
I want to ask you about, although Assembly Speaker Silver has been a great proponent of housing and affordable housing, he's also presided over a weakening of the housing laws on at least 2 occasions during his time in office.
I wouldn't say that at all. Let me say that. I was in the Assembly during both. I think the first one was 1997. The other might have been 2005 or 3. I'm sorry. And we had a guy by the name of Joe Bruno. And I can tell you honestly that we coordinated all of our policy and political efforts with the tenants and neighbors, all of our good government housing groups, and for example, I'll give you an example, and I may have been guilty of it. In 1997, I think we said that the threshold, if you make more than $175,000, and if your apartment was over $2,500, you were not subjected to rent control. Now the only one, and I thought about it, the only one in my district at that time in 1997 making that kind of money was Percy Sutton. And I asked him about it. And he said, no, that sounds good numbers. Who knew that the housing industry would make a concerted effort to really try and destabilize all of these rental apartments? Now, you may burn me once, you're not going to burn me twice. Right. And certainly these are things that we're going to take into consideration.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask you about.
And you got to remember though, but Joe Bruno at the time said he was going to end rent stabilization. This was the quote on the front page of the New York Post. He was going to end rent stabilization as we knew it.
But isn't that what you do? You set the bar so high so that you negotiate down to that level.
Well, listen, the negotiations will take its course. But I think that we are all the much wiser.
I'm wondering if,
in terms of how we've negotiated in the past and where we go in the future.
I mean, obviously you can speak to this better than anybody, but I mean, should housing advocates have a certain degree of trepidation now because Joe Bruno is now, there's a man named Dean Skelos there who will probably be trying to, execute that same agenda?
Housing advocates should always have a degree of trepidation. We all should have a degree of trepidation, and we should all go into that room knowing that we're fighting for our lives at this moment, and the lives of the middle class, and the lives of working people, and the lives of people, low-income New Yorkers, to try and save, we're just trying to live, especially in New York City. Yes, we need to go in there with trepidation, but we also need to go in there knowing that we're fighting for the lives of all of the people that we represent.
Well, certainly we journalists understand the problems of affordable housing since we don't make a lot of money.
That's what you say.
And, well, we know how much money you make too, so we're in the same ballpark as you. Well, Assemblyman, thank you so much for joining us on City and State TV. We will be following very closely the housing fight this year, and we hope that we can bring you back and talk to you about it further.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.